Welcome, everyone. My name is Irene Ornelas. I work with Chabot Las Positas Community College District, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for our apprenticeship and behavioral health informational session, as well as the resume writing session with Mary Moffitt. So I'll hand it over to our team to just introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. Alina?
Thanks, Irene. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here with you all. My name is Alina Sanchez. I am the project manager for the Catalyst Center for this apprenticeship program that we'll be sharing with you all in a little bit. So very nice to be here and meet you all, and I will pass it to Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Moffitt. I'm with Tri-Valley Career Center here in Pleasanton. And I am thrilled to be here. You all, I think, are about to hear about a fantastic opportunity. And I am here to help you create the best resume that you could possibly create to introduce yourself out there to prospective employers. So I'm very glad you all are here. With that, take it away.
Thank you, Mary. And just to make sure that you all know, we're a small group today. And so we are really looking to have conversations. So please, engage with you as much as possible. So if you have any questions, please make sure that it's okay to raise hand, ask us in the moment. You don't need to wait till we're done. Again, we want to make this as engaging as possible and take advantage of the small group that we have this afternoon. So with that, I'm going to start with talking about an introduction to behavioral mental health careers, because that's what we're here for. And then, of course, Mary, looking at actual resume writing in general, but something that you could also use if you're interested in pursuing a career in behavioral mental health. Next slide, Alina. So here are the two things that we're going to be working on today to increase awareness of our behavioral health careers and their related educational pathways. Also to increase awareness about the Catalyst for Wellness and Community, which is a new apprenticeship program. And you'll get to hear all the details about that as well. So what is mental health? I know a lot of folks use mental health, behavioral health, all very much interchangeably, but I wanted to just set the tone and the foundation for what we're really talking about today. So it's defined by World Health Organization as a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential and can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Again, so looking at holistically, not just one aspect of your well-being, but all aspects of who you are, and really, are you able to function? Sometimes folks who are struggling with mental health challenges have difficulty with one aspect of their life or another. Next slide, please. So again, talking about behavioral health versus mental health, what's the difference? So behavioral health describes the connection between health and well-being and the body and the mind, right? And then also looking at specific actions or behaviors that someone is engaging in. So someone who may have a mental health challenge may engage in a behavior that isn't always they may be a cause for concern, such as substance abuse or eating disorders or anything like that. So it's the behavior piece that can cause challenge. It's hard to know what comes first, because sometimes if someone is having struggles with a mental health challenge, they may be engaging in a behavior that isn't necessarily positive for them because they're trying to, care for their mental health needs, and they may not know another way to cope or another way to do it. So again, a lot of people use those two terms interchangeably, but really, next slide, Alina. Behavioral health is described by psychology today as being more inclusive. So I look at it as like an umbrella, right? An umbrella where behavioral health includes not only ways of promoting well-being, but preventing and intervening with anxiety, depression, also looking at preventing and intervening with substance abuse or other addictions. So if you're struggling with mental health and you get services earlier on, you may not engage in behaviors such as drug using, alcohol, or other things like that to then cope with the depression, anxiety you may be feeling. Next slide, please. So types of behavioral health services. So behavioral health services can include, but are not limited to, marriage and family counseling and or therapy, individual counseling and or therapy, group counseling and or therapy, addiction treatment, and psychiatric hospitalization. So I know I've talked a lot, so I'm just going to take a quick pause and see if anyone has any questions before I move further. Okay. Looks like we're all right. So why, when choosing a career in behavioral health, what are the things you should know? So again, we're talking about, I gave you a little bit of foundation about what is behavioral health. What's the difference between behavioral health and mental health? And why we're here today is because we're promoting careers in behavioral health. So the industry is growing. Before the pandemic, there was a high need for folks who were able to provide those services, and it's only gotten worse. So, you know, there will be a 12% growth in job openings coming up between now and next year. Actually, we're already 2023. Probably should have updated the statistic. As far as wages goes, it's annually approximately about $24 an hour, with annual earnings of about $96,000, depending on your education level. So again, looking to promote these careers, they all seem very kind of, I think when most people think of behavioral health careers, they're thinking of somebody who's got a lot of education and also, you know, maybe 10 years down the line, they're making a certain amount of money, but we're really looking at, we want to make sure that you understand there's ways to enter the career without having a higher education level. Next slide, please. So going back to mental health, we all experience mental health challenges through our lives. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. And there are over 44 million American adults who have mental health conditions. Again, folks are not necessarily getting the services they need because we don't have enough providers to help in this area. So again, there's not enough mental health professionals for the services that are needed, but we all have to start somewhere. Next slide, please, Alina. So here are some characteristics of folks who are interested and or are in the career, behavioral mental health career. So someone who's kind, flexible, caring, understanding, a good listener, someone who doesn't really judge against other people. They're resourceful, right? So these are all characteristics that even though you may not have a higher level degree or you're thinking about that, I think this profession really lends itself to people who have these certain types of characteristics and want to help others. Next slide, Alina. So pursuing a career in behavioral health can put you in a position to help others. Again, it's a long journey to become a licensed professional, but again, we all have to start somewhere. And even myself, I started off as a volunteer case manager, working in a behavioral health child youth setting in a local agency in my town. Next slide. So again, these are the folks that I think we look at with licensed professionals and just wanting to know what the difference is. You all may have heard of a psychiatrist, NP, which is nurse practitioner, LMFT, which is a licensed marriage and family therapist, LCSW is a licensed clinical social worker, and on and on and on. But for the most part, you know, people are seeing them as a counselor and or therapist. And what's the difference between all of those? Really, it's education, the type of certification you have, the scope of practice. So where are the services that you're qualified to provide and where you work specifically. So for example, it takes a lot longer to become a psychiatrist because that's a medical doctor than it would to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. That doesn't require a medical degree. Next slide, Alina. So here's a matrix that I will make sure that we send this all to you. And it's really, I developed this just to help you all understand like how many years of education you need, who can prescribe medications, what kind of program you'd be interested in if you're looking at that kind of profession, and what is the area of study. Myself, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so I will speak to that. So I know that my master's program took me about 3 years. With having a master's in social work, our degree is really emphasis is in equity and social justice, which is very different from some of the other professions, like such as a marriage and family therapist. Their emphasis is really more personal relationships in the home, whereas with my degree, it's really on looking at how environment and the places we live, how that impacts ourselves, our mental health, and what we have access to, like healthcare. So, and also, if you desire to work like in a hospital or in a school-based setting, only certain professions can work into those environments. So again, just thinking about where is it that I want to work, and who do I want to work with. Next slide, please. And yes, we were going to be emailing the presentation along with all the information to all at the end of this webinar today. So here's some resources. Again, this will all be emailed to you after we're done. Next slide. And this here just demonstrates that you can start at a high school or a GE certification level, and you can keep on climbing the career and educational ladder. So really, it just starts with an inspiration, starts with, if you're interested. The profession has changed a lot. It's really valuable for somebody to have lived experience, to having either with a mental health challenge on their own or someone they know in their family, because really it brings a different level of understanding than someone who maybe has not dealt with that on their own. And I think even more so, we're here today because there has been a big change in opening in positions that you can gain at an entry level, but maybe there wasn't there in the past. In the past, a lot of these positions only required a bachelor's degree, but a lot of our employers are seeing there's such a need that they're now opening their doors to folks who have undergraduate degrees or maybe don't have a degree at all, and they're opening their doors to have people get started in the field. Next slide, please. So here are some health careers to explore. So we just started off with some entry-level positions on until licensure, just so you have some ideas of what are those jobs that may be of interest to you. So just again, to give you an idea, just go through a couple of those. So mental health and prevention specialists, typically, again, in the past, they were required a bachelor's degree, but now, again, employers are opening their doors for people who haven't quite earned or maybe have an associate's or maybe just have some training. So what these folks do is they take a big look at the view of the environment and individual factors that impact the health and mental well-being of an individual. So they help deliver services to youth in regards to prevention. They generally work underneath someone who has a license. So for example, if a child is having challenges with their behavior in school, they're seeing a licensed professional, and the licensed professional then gives direction to the prevention specialist and says, here's the thing that I want you to work on with the student while they're in school. So maybe they're having challenges with staying on task, then that prevention specialist comes in and under the license of the professional will administer some of those interventions. Next slide, please. Social services assistants, again, they're out in community-based organizations, and they're helping to link clients with the support that they need in their communities. So again, they're identifying if somebody doesn't have enough money to pay their rent, or possibly they're not getting the medications they need or access to healthcare. Someone such as a social services assistant would be able to help link families to get the services that they need. Again, the same with this case manager, Alina. We'll just go through to some of the licensed professionals because I want to make sure that you have plenty of time to talk about the apprenticeship. So we'll just skip a couple of slides. Next slide, please. I'll mention child welfare worker quickly, mainly because these folks are generally working at a bachelor's level and they're working in agencies such as Children and Family Services, again, connecting families that may be in conflict or in need of to interviewing with issues of abuse or neglect, and again, helping folks be successful in their families and providing intervention and supports that they need. So on to the licensed professionals. I spoke to a licensed clinical social worker earlier. Again, a lot of these licensed professionals, if they're providing one-on-one counseling, they're doing that in a private practice setting. But some folks also work for county behavioral health systems. They may work in hospitals. They may work in a variety of settings. Go ahead, Alina. And the same with a marriage and family therapist. Generally speaking, these folks are working in private practice, but all the folks that we're talking about here at a licensed level have the opportunity to have their own private practice or work in a community-based setting. Thanks, Alina. A lot of people say, I want to be a psychologist, but again, not understanding what that really means. Again, psychologists, generally speaking, they're doing private practice or they're working in a school. And again, their philosophy is very different, but all three, the psychologists, the marriage and family therapists, the licensed clinical social worker, they're all able to provide diagnosis for mental health conditions. Next. So this next is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And then one more slide, Alina, the psychiatrist. These are the only two mental health providers that can prescribe medications for folks who are challenged with a mental health disorder. And again, they require a level, they're more on the medical side. So they're going to medical school or nurse practitioner. They're finishing up their degree in nursing at a higher level. Next slide, Alina. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Alina to talk to you a little bit more about the actual program that we're advertising or making well known for you all today, the Catalyst for Wellness and Community. And again, sorry for speed talking my way through the presentation, but we'll make sure that you all have a copy. And if you have any questions, we'll make sure to give you all our emails so that you can connect with us that way as well. Thank you, Alina.
Thanks, Irene. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're going to transition into the next portion of this presentation, talking about the Catalyst for Wellness and Community Apprenticeship Program and everything that entails. So first, let's just start off by talking about what is an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship is a system for training a new generation of professionals for a trade or profession, but it has two components. So it has a on-the-job training component and it has an educational component. So the educational component can be, going to school to get a certification or just taking coursework that is related to the topic that you are training for. So let's get into some of the specifics about this apprenticeship program. This apprenticeship program is very focused in behavioral health and social services. Apprentices would be working with youth and families primarily. And the goal of this apprenticeship is really to get our apprentices to understand the career pathways in this field, but also to prepare them for entry-level jobs. A big issue in this field is that there's a lot of barriers to even getting your foot in the door. And so part of this is to help alleviate that, put you in a position for success so you can move on to the next step. You'll also learn some hard and soft skills. So some of these could be self-care, empathy, compassion, but also case management, group process, boundary setting. So, being able to build those skills up. So you're not just a well-rounded person in this profession, but you just, have those skills in general. Earlier, I did mention that there are two components to an apprenticeship. So the first being on-the-job training, which is just a fancy way of saying job placement. So our apprentices will complete their on-the-job training. They'll get paid for this. So the on-the-job training, like I said, is a job placement. You go, you do the work, you get paid for that work. The other component is the coursework. So for this specific program, we'll be partnering with Chabot Community College. And so you'll be completing about 60 college credits worth of classes over 3 years. And the program is year round. So this does include summer classes as well. And at the end of it, the goal is for you to leave with an associate's degree to transfer, so that way you can transfer into the CSU system or maybe even the UC system, but getting you into that next 4-year university step if that's what you choose to do afterwards. And then a really cool part about this program is that we are starting our minimum wage at $20 an hour. And as you go through the program, meet your standards and meet certain hours, you will get incremental pay increases. So that way, by the end, you are making more than $20 an hour. Some of the benefits. What are the benefits of joining this program? Like I mentioned earlier, you do the work, you get paid for the work. So you have 3 years of paid employment for your on-the-job training. We will help place you in your training program. You'll also be able to earn health benefits. So if that's a concern for you, we, as well as the provider that you'd be working for and yourself, will all meet together to figure out a schedule that works for you. So that way, if you need to earn health benefits, that is an option for you. The program is also online for the educational courses. So it allows flexibility to, be able to go to work and do your coursework without having to go in and do those classes. We can help support you through Zoom. There also is free tuition for this program, which is really great. So the entire time that you're in school, you're not having to pay for anything. We're also including a laptop, study materials. If you need help accessing internet, we can help with that as well. And a variety of student support services. So this can be academic support services, like I need a tutor, I need some help, but it could also be I'm struggling with my mental health and I need some assistance, and what are some resources that are available to me, and we can help you with those as well. And then overall, just career coaching and mentorship. Every apprentice will have a mentor that will guide them and train them through their on-the-job training. But then we'll also have our team to help you with career coaching. What's the next step for me? Where do I go from here? What are my options? And finally, I want to talk just a little bit about the application process. What does it look like if I want to be a part of this program, if I'm interested? The first step is to submit an application. They're open through June 7th, and we can put that link in the chat for you all, as well as send it out later when we send out all this material. But you would submit an application. And then from the application, we'll do some interviews, talk with you all, see if you're a good fit for the program. And then from there, you'll be accepted into the program. After you're accepted, you'll be able to meet with our different employers, really get a sense of who they are. They can get a sense of who you are, and then we'll match you with them. So once you're matched, that'll be your employer that you are with for your 3 years. And then we'll also get you a mentor. Like I had mentioned earlier, this mentor will work at that same provider that you will work at, and will sort of be the person that you can shadow. And then from there, our apprentice team will help you enroll at the college, at Chabot College, and also help you register for classes. So just know that we are here for support every step of the way. And if you have any questions, then you can absolutely lean on us to help support and answer those questions for you. I know you got a lot of information from both me and Irene in such a short amount of time. So we will email these out, but want to see if there are any questions that anyone has for either of us.
So Lena, there's a couple of questions in the chat. One says, does California recognize other states' degrees certifications equally from New York State? I think it just depends on what degree you're talking about. Are you talking, Dave, specifically courses that you've already taken?
Hi, everybody. Yes. I earned a, excuse me, I earned a bachelor's in psychology a long time ago. So this is really a big second career jump for me. I'm curious to know how it might be applicable. I'm sorry to be hiding in the shadows. It's just the nature of my windows of the sunlight where I am.
No worries. I think I'll give you my email. So you want to email me and then we can kind of maybe have
Sure. And is it possible, please, to get all the slides for the presentation?
Oh, we will. We'll send those out to everyone who attended today. Thank you. And then the other one was, yes, starting rate is at $20 an hour. And it's asked, does this cap out?
So there is a set number of periodic raises to get you at a final number. I want to say the number is $23 or $24 an hour. But this is just for this program. So the goal of this program, right, is to get you into the field, get you that experience, so that way you can move on to the next higher paying job, right? So we do cap out at around $23, $24 for our program. But that doesn't mean that your provider, if you're doing a great job, may want to give you an additional raise, or like I said, moving on to the next position after the program to get a higher paying job.
Right. And I think that's part of, that initial that I give you all that information is really showing you there is a pathway, right? That there's a way to start as an entry-level person making a certain amount of money. And our hope is to inspire you to continue along your educational and your career path. And there are many, many options. And again, just trying to help folks get into the field. Maybe it's something they never considered before. So we're really here, again, if those things fit you, if someone's ever told you you're a good listener, if you've had your own experience, or these things are very valuable. And I don't know that they've taken in the past as much value as there is actually, it's more readily recognized that these are extremely important characteristics for folks. And so again, trying to help you all see yourselves in these careers. There's another question, Alina. It says, where are the potential employers located?
Yeah, great question. All of our providers, our employers are located, apologize, in Alameda County. So as far as potential candidates, it would probably be ideal if you lived in Alameda County, so that way you can access work fairly easy. All of our providers are located throughout the county.
I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if you guys have others, please. Dave, did you have your hand up?
I did, thank you. What are the projected number of jobs that are unfulfilled now and into the future for the San Francisco Bay Area? So I'm constantly reading things about what a chronic shortage there is of collectively of mental health professionals and social work and everything, especially with the COVID burnout and everything else in demographics.
I don't have the specific information on the Bay Area, but I do know that the Bay Area, LA County, those, whatever it might be locally, it's probably twice as much in those kind of really densely populated areas. Wow. And again, this way, employers are now, expanding their reach for workforce down to the undergraduate level, whereas that wasn't necessarily the case even, just a few years ago. Sure. So really, again, looking to open those doors for folks who either haven't had experience in the past, but are interested or have some lived experience and maybe some college course work. So looking at really creative solutions to getting folks into the pipeline. Unless there are any other questions, I think it's probably a good time to start the resume writing portion of this workshop. So I'm going to hand it over to Mary. Thank you all, and we'll make sure that you have a copy of the presentation. Mary, I believe you're muted. Mary, you're muted still?
Okay, I muted because my phone was going off. Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody's calling the phone and this isn't even my office, so I don't know. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll go back. Welcome everybody. I would love this to be able to be a session where if you have any questions, you can just chime in and ask. It's always more interesting that way. It's more fun that way. And I think we all learn more that way. So don't hesitate. I am working right now for Tri-Valley Career Center. I don't know if any of you have ever visited Tri-Valley before or not, but we're a community-based career center that's run by Chabot Las Positas College. And we're located right across the street from the Dublin Pleasanton BART station. So it's very, very easy to find, very convenient, and there are a lot of services that are provided here. I am simply going to give you tools today to work on your resume. I suggest that after you've created the resume that you're happy with, you call the Tri-Valley Career Center, make an appointment with one of the career counselors and come in and have that career counselor take a look at your resume. They can help you in a lot of ways. If you go to our website, you will find that there are a lot of resources available online, including teaching modules in soft skills and TDL. We have a job fair that is going to be held on May 24th here. We have job fairs periodically, so that's something you might be interested in. There are a number of workshops that are available also through Tri-Valley. So I would just encourage you to go online and take a look at the website and see what you can find there that is going to be of help to you. But what I really hope for today is that you leave here with a sense of how to put together a resume that you're going to feel comfortable with, that's really going to generate interest out there by employers in you, because that's really the key. The most important thing about a resume and about an interview is that you essentially are generating interest in yourself. So with that in mind, let's get started. I always like to start with a question. So how much time do you think the average recruiter spends reviewing a resume? Anybody got any ideas?
30 seconds.
That's very good. Wow. Wow.
Call me cynical.
7.4 seconds. How do you like that one? Pretty shocking, isn't it?
Aren't they using AI?
Isn't that? Yeah. And you know, what it is you're skimming for name, job titles, you know, the experience level, education, and skills. How do you get that resume in front of somebody and make an impression? That's really what it's all about. So what really is the purpose of a resume? It's to convince the potential employer that you're the right person for the job. A lot of times in interviewing, they will ask you, why should we hire you? Your resume is all about why they should hire you. every word you put on that resume needs to contribute to that goal. And if it doesn't, it's fluff. You don't need it there. Seriously, you really, really got to think before you write a resume. There are lots of forms of resumes. I'm going to use one form that we've used a lot here today. This is the form that you see in front of you. And when we go through the various sections of this, I'll show you how one potential job seeker has filled this out. But this all needs to be, of course, relevant to you personally and your experience. So, current resume trends. And I'm really curious to know how many of you know about this first one, applicant tracking system. Do you know what that is? Dave, do you know?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I can't say I know the mechanics of it.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of companies now use a computer program to scan the resumes that they get in online. And we have a module here, a workshop at Tri-Valley about ATS. And I would really, really recommend that it's offered about once a month. I would really recommend that you sign up for it because it gives you a lot of good information about how to tailor your resume so that it doesn't get kicked out of the automatic system and that actually you can get the benefit of having it scanned. So
LinkedIn's very big on keywords and stuff too. I mean,
yeah,
so the automation of this.
It all revolves around keywords and phrases and then how typeface that you use, punctuation you use, etc. Beating the applicant tracking system, that is the name of the workshop that's being offered by Tri-Valley. So when you go online under workshops, look for that one specifically, and I would really recommend that you take it. The other thing that I recommend is that you make two different kinds of resumes. You make one that's the human-friendly resume, that's the one that we normally associate with resumes. And then the other one is going to be the form that you're going to be able to submit for the ATS systems. The primary focus of all of this, obviously, is that you have got to convince the employer that you are the solution to their problems. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with a number of techniques, and one of them is quantifiable accomplishments and statements. This is something that I think is fairly new in writing resumes, but I'm seeing it more and more and more. And we'll go through this further on in the conversation we're having today. It's how do you quantify some of your achievements so that you look to a prospective employer like somebody that they've absolutely got to hire. Metrics are everything anymore. Another aspect of how to present the resume is you want a visual center in the middle of the resume, and we'll show you how you do that too. I mean, you really want it not to look crowded, for those employers to just be able to hone right in on, especially the skills section. You probably shouldn't exceed 2 pages in your resume. We're recommending that if you have a lot of experience, a lot of past experience, you don't go back more than 10 years, maybe even 15, no more than 15 years, because essentially, if they're really interested in that, it'll show up later on. You'll talk to them later on about that. But I think they're really more interested than anything else in what you've done lately. The other thing is just how you lay out the resume on the page. So, you know, you want your margins to be like 3/4, no less than 3/4 of an inch all the way around. Suggested font is Arial, no smaller than 11-point type, and try to stay away from the types that have serifs, that have the little bars on them, because that's not read easily by a computer. In the very beginning of the resume, where you're setting out the information about yourself, your name, and information about how you can be contacted, It's important to put your email up there. I am seeing more and more people putting their LinkedIn contact. And if you don't have a LinkedIn contact, I highly suggest you get one. I highly suggest you go on LinkedIn. There are a lot of YouTube videos now that are really good about showing you how to do that, how to get access, how to show off your resume. But LinkedIn is becoming more and more important out there. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, I highly suggest that you get one. And then finally, you don't need to take up space saying that you need references available upon request. Everybody knows that if you get far enough along in the interview process, they're going to ask for those anyway. So have a handy, but you don't need to tell people that you're going to have them handy. One thing that we recommend too is that you have two different versions of the resume. You have the master version, which is a file in your computer where you put everything. And then every time you apply to a specific job, and we'll show you how to do this, you need to tailor that resume to that specific job. And that is really, really key, because it's going to allow you to bypass a lot of the problems within ATS. It's also going to allow the recruiter to see that you have all the qualifications they're looking for. Resumes take a lot of different formats. All of you probably already have a resume, and it may not even look like these. And it's not to say that one's good and one's bad. I'm going to use one specific kind that we recommend here, and we are going to play with Cecily Mozzarella, this fictionary character who is trying to find a job. And as you can see from the way she's filled out this resume, you know, where do your eyes go immediately? They go right to what the skills are that she's trying to advertise. It's clean, it's succinct, and she also is very clear about putting in measurements of what she's done, metrics. And we'll get to that later too, how you develop those metrics, but that's really key. So the information that we're suggesting that you put on that page in your resume, you start out with your name and contact information. Then you go on to your job target. What job are you looking for? What job are you applying for? You highlight your qualifications, so like you could do like a little summary paragraph with skills underneath it. Then you go into your professional experience, your work experience, any education or training or certifications that you have that are relevant. And then finally, you know, if it's applicable, go ahead and list awards you've gotten, affiliations you have. Volunteer work can sometimes, you know, really be a lifesaver, because you can have a lot of things, a lot of experience that comes to you by virtue of volunteer work. I just recently talked to a job seeker at Las Positas who had come back from military service, and she had done a lot of things in the military. She had a lot of really good skills, but the thing she forgot to put on her resume was the fact that she had essentially been a leader at Las Positas in terms of the returning vets and getting them exposed to job skills, getting them exposed to the school. It was a leadership role, and she didn't seem to think that that was worth putting on the resume. And I said, absolutely, you've got to put that on your resume. So volunteer positions can be very helpful for you. Think about that. We go back to Cecily again. Now watch how she's done this. So up here at the very beginning, she talks about what she's looking for, the job she's looking for. Then she sets out a little paragraph talking about her skills, her experience, something that should catch the eye of your recruiter, followed by your bullets, right? Your eye goes directly to that, her skill set, followed by her professional experience, her job experience, followed by her education and training. So let's go through that resume then. Step one, name
Mary?
and contact information. So you
Mary?
probably want to have your name in the largest font on the resume. 14 or 16 point type is probably a good bet for that one.
Mary, Dave
your
has
phone.
his hand up.
Yes.
Dave has his hand up. He had a question.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a veteran. I don't know if anyone else is. And one of the things that's a big ongoing effort or issue is the translation of military job descriptions, because all the 6 different services have different ways of describing the job and responsibilities, let alone if there's licensure, whether it's akin to like getting a CDL driver's license, driving a truck in the military, to driving it as a civilian. There's a big push amongst the states as well as in Congress through the VA to be able to translate military experience and training and licensure, so it's not done redundantly. And quite often, people can join the military as young as when they're 18, right? So they get experience that a lot of times people don't get till much later in life. I just looked at the language you use, so I'm assuming, I'm sorry, Marie.
Yeah.
So, you're familiar with that and how to help a vet like myself translate that?
I think what I would do is, one, I would talk to some of the career counselors here.
Okay.
And what you might even do, I mean, I have become very, very impressed with the vet connections over at Las Positas College. Are you aware of those at all?
I am not. Quite candidly, I found you because I found your blue flyer that looks kind of like the homepage of the website. I'm not even sure what I got it. And I was really looking more for just a resume class. And so this is a wonderful surprise that you're offering all these other amazing services and experiences. So thank you for that. So I'm just getting familiar, for lack of a better word.
Here's what I would say too. I would say that, not only do we have the Career Center here, but there is a Career Center at Las Positas as well. And because there are a number of programs at Las Positas that draw on the vet population, that's another place to go. They have an office there, for services to vets. And it is absolutely amazing. I was just floored when I went in there. I was so excited. They care, they know what's available in the community. I definitely think it would be worth a trip over there if it's not too far for you. They really are great people.
Okay,
And
thank you for that.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, it really is, you really need somebody that can help translate so that the people out there in the general community understand the skills that you got while you were in the military. So I would encourage you strongly to go over there.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we've had a number of vets come in too. And, it's always a pleasure to work with you guys and women because, you have given so much to this country and it's time you got what you deserve. So I would do that. Definitely, Dave, do that. Okay. So going back, thank you for I love it when people ask questions because this just really helps everybody so much.
I have another question then.
Yeah.
Is Sicily fresh mozzarella or is it I've had a hard time finding that lately.
Question
so.
yet. That's great. Yeah. Okay. So as the job title, we do your name, do your phone number. Anymore, we say no street address. You don't even need to put your city and state and zip code unless you're working in the office. That remote jobs, they don't care anymore. Then, use a professional email address. And I could tell you some of the email addresses that we have encountered while I've been here. They are really, really bizarre. I mean, one example, lady love or whatever at gmail.com. I mean, unless you're applying for some sort of adult movie career, I really don't think you want to do that. We've had some that just really, really border on the vulgar. So that's not a good idea. Your name at gmail.com or whatever is fine. And then again, I would put the optional, it's optional, but I think in this world anymore, you probably want your LinkedIn URL. So again, we go back to Cecily and see how she's done it up here at the top. Go on to the next slide. Okay, the headline. So at one point in time, everybody was locked into the idea that you had to put an objective up at the top of your resume. And that's really becoming obsolete. And they were so hokey anyway. It was kind of to secure a position in a fast-paced environment where one can utilize my skill. Well, everybody wants advancement, right? So we're saying don't do that. If you use an objective, you got to be clear, you got to be precise. It's good to have a job title. You don't want to have the people that are reading your resume figure out what it is you want. You just got to tell them. So again, up here at the top, she goes, operations and procurement management professional. So she's done it for you. She's done exactly what she needs to do there. Then we go down to a professional summary where we talk about, your experience level. You talk about the industries you were involved in, key skills, major strengths, traits, and added value. This is a sample template. This is really, really hard to read and to digest. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go from here to examples of what people have already done. And the whole goal of this is to get the reader's attention fast, to summarize. It's kind of like a commercial for you. So here's an example. Highly effective health insurance professional with 7+ years of experience in the medical industry. Expertise includes both medical and dental terminology, claims processing, and customer service. Proven ability to produce exceptionally high quality work while increasing client satisfaction. What does Cecily say? She says energetic and adaptable professional following an outstanding 15-year career in the military with vast experience in procurement and operations management, combined with successful guidance, training, development, budget, and oversight. Exceptional time management and capable of taking on additional duties. Personal qualities include dependability, worthiness, sound mind, and strong ethical choice making. And then she follows that by the actual bullet points. And these bullet points, in most cases, are going to be taken from the job announcement because that's what you want. You want them to focus right in on the fact that you've got the skills that they're looking for. So here are a couple of examples of this. These are kind of wordy, but you see how they build in the amount of experience they have, the kinds of experience that they have, and then skill levels down here. So we have another example, project manager, again, years of experience, what you've been doing, creative problem solver. And then here is the really important part of this where they've actually gotten analytical about this. Employed a customer-focused approach which increased repeat business by 15%. So you've got the numbers in there over the previous cycle. Reduced employee turnover by 35% and retained all top performing staff members. Then another example again, with this one, you've got skills based in, but again, it's quantitative. 90% successful employment placement rate. So the skills summary, you want to prioritize and categorize in an easy to view format, right in the center of the resume that you're creating. And you want to use the keywords and phrases from the job postings themselves. So here's the example here, highlighted skills. You see payment processing, specimen collection, billing, charting, strong writing skills, etc. What does Cecily do here? Again, she has her bullet points about what she does, what she's able to do. Now, how do you do that? How do you get to your highlighted skills? Take the job announcement and go through it. Nice to do this with a marker and just mark some of these qualifications that they're looking for. And then what you want to do is you want to then list some of these. They don't have to be exactly the same, but you want to make the most of what's in here. And you can see that what she's done, interpersonal skills, she just copied that one. Exceptional communicator, she's got that right there. We go up to some of the other things that she's looked, strong team member, patient experience, cohesive office culture, patient servicing procedures, she got right here. She's copied a lot of the things from this job advertisement into her highlighted skills to attract attention to someone who's going to be looking at her resume. Really, that's why I say you've really got to create a separate resume for every job you apply to. And I know it can be a hassle. It takes time. You have to go back through again and again and again, but it makes a huge difference when it comes to the employers reviewing your resumes. Then we move on to work history. So job title, company name, city and state locations, dates of employment, last 10 to 15 years. And you can add in their self-employment, contract work, and volunteer positions, because that certainly gives you experience. That's relevant. You want to list 3 to 7 of these achievements in the bullet points achievement format. So that's that middle part of your resume that we were talking about. Keep the verb tense consistent. Start with the bullets if you want to. Key skills in the section you need to, and the bullets should be pretty short. So this is what Cecily's done. She's got these bullet points right in here. And then when she gets down into the actual job duties, she again has bullet points here talking about her successes. And those are called accomplishment statements, all right? So those are really, really important. And what you want to do is you want to keep them concise, you want to keep them specific, and you want to keep them quantitative. So here's how to think about how to summarize that. Take a situation. What was the challenge? What was the action that you took to resolve that challenge? And what was the result? What was the situation? What did you do? What was the result? So here's an example of how you translate this into words. You could say, trained new employees. Well, that's what you did, but it doesn't really give them that, wow, this person's really getting it done. The better bullet, you train new employees in what you trained them in, Salesforce, and it resulted in increasing customer satisfaction. But you still haven't made it quantitative. The next thing you can do is make it quantitative. So increase customer satisfaction rate by 20% by training 15 new employees in Salesforce. Here's another example. What was the challenge? The department wasn't able to handle all the incoming calls. What was the action that you took? You researched new phone systems and counted calls after changing to a new system. The result? Successful increase in calls answered from 100 to 125 per hour. And what would you say on the resume? Increased capacity for incoming calls by 25% hourly by researching and implementing a new corporate phone system.
Mary,
Yes?
Kimberly had a question. She wanted to confirm how long is a decent resume?
How long is what?
Is a resume, for how long should the resume be again?
I would not go past 2 pages. The only time I have seen resumes that successfully can go beyond that length is if you're applying for a faculty position at a major university and then they want a curriculum vitae of 6 pages, 7 pages, everything you've ever published, everything you've ever, every presentation you've ever given, that kind of thing. But I would say that 2 pages is as much as I would recommend. Do you have any further question about that?
I was going to say, does that include front and back too?
No, unfortunately, that's not what we're, no, 2 pages max. Yeah.
Well, the
But I
reason
know,
why
I mean, once you've been out there working for a while, it's really hard to cut it down. And when you go online and start filling out some of these forms that employers want, you're going to find out they want you to go way back to the beginning. And I don't know what they do with that data. I really don't know, but I would not recommend it in a resume that you create yourself.
Well, the only reason why I asked, because, you know, in being in management, you have like many forms of things that you know that entails. You know, it says you're in management, but, you know, writing specifics of like multiple things you done on a resume. That's why it's like an interview is very important, especially even going over a resume, like to entail details like that. But sometimes it's like you said, they usually want you to do all kinds of answering and questionnaires and all kinds of stuff already. Like that's like a lot.
Yeah. I hope you could be around in 2 weeks, because we're going to do a presentation on interviewing, which I think dovetails really nicely into this. You know, I hope you can attend that, because I think you'll have a chance to say a lot about your experiences there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just curious because, you know, exactly like you said, most employers, they want you, like your job history, but like if you've been working for 25 years plus, that could entail multiple things, you know?
And sometimes there are things that you've done in your past that you really need to bring forward. I mean, you have skills that you learned in a particular position, and maybe what you're doing right now isn't where you really want to go, and you need those skills from a previous job. I would definitely work those in.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for answering my question.
If you have any more, please feel free. Okay, so this gives you some idea of accomplishments here. All right, and what we have on the side is how I would think about accomplishment statements. Did it save money? Did it save time? Are you talking about some sort of a percentage that was increased or decreased by what you did? Were there a certain number that you were able to achieve, or boost enrollment, or boost the number of programs, or whatever? Think about these kinds of measures as being the quantitative kinds of things that you want to go for. So this slide is really good, because it really gives you really specific ideas about how you can frame these bullets, and they can be difficult to come up with. They really are, if you don't think like this. Have you ever achieved more with fewer resources or money? Increase sales, reduce costs, improve the productivity or operation, save time, designed a new process, program, or product, developed and implemented a new procedure or project, completed something on time, ahead of schedule or ahead of budget. Well, we hope you did it on time, but ahead of schedule or ahead of budget, I could definitely see that. Identified new customers, new markets, new financial opportunities, demonstrated strong leadership or customer service skills. So those are all really good questions to ask yourself when you're trying to develop those bullets. So here are some examples. Broke previous sales records, see, by selling 11 additional units on average per period and producing revenue 146% above average. Successfully completed customer relation management project 1 month ahead of schedule and $250,000 under budget. That's pretty good, right? Revamped invoicing system to reduce processing time from 3 weeks to 5 days. Highlighted in manager's annual performance review to senior leaders, you were highlighted as the most valuable team player. Use expert knowledge of Spanish and Italian to assist global customers when translation and support materials were not available. And I would say here too, under your bullets, if you're bilingual or you speak another language fluently, put it in there. You never know when that's going to be the deciding factor in a job. It can open a lot of doors. And if you have that facility, by all means, let them know that. Changed with evaluation and selection, 3.2 million worth of new equipment for key legacy migration project. Assumed responsibility for training team of 7 new hires while the manager was gone. So these are all really, really good examples of what you could put in there that show that you have the ability to go above and beyond. Now, addressing gaps in employment. I will just touch on this briefly. What I think the best thing to do is, if this is something that concerns you, you really should come in, make an appointment with one of the career counselors and talk to them about this. But there are a lot of ways that you can finesse your resume so that it doesn't look like you've done nothing for a long period of time. And you can change the way you refer to the years and the months. Just put the years in. If it's not a resume that you have to fill out online, you can include self-employment, contract work, volunteer positions. One of the career counselors here suggests that you talk about being a domestic manager. If you were caregiving to someone in your family, I mean, domestic engineer, because you're doing a lot of things that are giving you experience. You're paying bills, you're taking care of doctor appointments, you're organizing, you're like a project manager at home. So there are a lot of things that you can say about those experiences. And in my experience, there are a lot of people out there who understand when you have to take time off to take care of family members, and they don't hold that against you. As long as you really are intent upon getting back into the workforce and doing what you can do. We also have had some people here at Tri-Valley that were either parolees or they were reentry candidates. And that's something, again, you would want to talk to the career counselors about. The last part on that resume was about education. And it really all depends on where you are in your education. If you have a college degree, mention it. If it's more than a few years old, you probably don't need to say the year that you got it. If you have some college, I would mention that you have a certain number of credits in a certain area, or that you're currently enrolled and you're expecting to get a degree in such and such in a certain period of time. If you don't have any college credits and you have a high school diploma, you can certainly mention that. You can mention a GED, but I wouldn't go back any further than that. So once again, you've got Cecily, and Cecily went to University of San Bruno. She's a student there now, who she's expecting to get her BS. She has an associate degree, and then she also lists the experience that she had with the U.S. Army schools that she attended as well.
Maria, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's David speaking. May I share a friend and colleague's website with you?
A friendly what?
And colleagues' website, because you made me remember it, and I hadn't thought of it in a while, even though I'm on weekly contact with this person because he's a school friend. His name is Luke Vanderlinden, and he's very skilled in social media and what he's done in the nonprofit world. He has his own personal website, and it's probably one of the best examples I've seen of personal branding, as opposed to putting it all on LinkedIn, because of the way he laid it out. And I just wanted to share it with the class because it made me realize.
That's wonderful.
It helped me to take what you're breaking down here so exemplary to what Luke does, because, and I've generally been an entrepreneur most of my adult life, but I've also worked for a few people in my next career. I'm very much interested in working in the nonprofit or counseling world. His website is LUKEVL.com. You know,
Can you put that
I'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
Okay,
And I'd love to see what people have to say about it. It's, I don't know that I haven't, you know, you everybody, you know, feel free to respond to what you see. Hope I get the lettering right. Here we go. I mean, very simple, easy to remember. And he's not all about like having, being an influencer online or anything like that. I mean, he's in his 40s, he's married, has a small family. But he's always had an interesting corporate or nonprofit career progression since I've known him. And I have a lot of respect for that. And I'd be curious to hear your professional analysis and what you do and what you're sharing here today. Because I actually offered him money once. He wouldn't do the site for me. He was too busy. I wanted something similar because I thought it was so well done and to the point. And I also knew his authenticity and integrity behind it. And I think an employer can see that. And that's the problem with AI and ChatGPT and resume scanning and all that. I'm old-fashioned in the sense that I'll call someone up cold, or I'll try to find a connection like through LinkedIn. So it's a warm call. I mean, that's always the best. That's how I've always found my best clients or jobs, is because I knew someone, or I stumbled across like something like we're doing here today. I found you because of a piece of paper that was posted somewhere in my travels around the Bay Area the last 2 weeks. I don't know if it was at a job fair or at Swords to Plowshares or tacked to a telephone pole. But if I hadn't have found that slip of paper, I wouldn't be here today learning. And I'm so grateful for that. Anyway, I hope this helps everybody.
Thank you.
Online.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. I love that. I'm going to go check that out. I spend a fair amount of time on YouTube, you know, searching around to see what's out there and in the employment area. And there are some, also, I found some really good YouTube videos. There's some that are really bad too, but there are some good ones, you know. So thank you for this. I will definitely check that out. That's very helpful. Thank you, Dave. So the last part, the last step on the resume form that we have is affiliations and awards. I would only put those in that are relevant to your job. Again, everything on your resume has got to have a purpose. It's got to be succinct. So your goal overall is to convince that person that's looking at your resume that you are the perfect person for the job. So again, this is the format that we've been playing with today. Cecily's resume is taken from that. You can see this is the way it finally looked when she put all of her information in. And then I would just a few final words here. Tailoring your resume is so important. You've got to tailor it for the specific job you're looking for. You really, really do have to do that. And you copy and paste words from the key description. We talked about that. You can call attention to certain parts of it by bolding. Make sure that you find out about the ATS requirements for a resume and try to adhere to those, because that will help you a lot. And because I love doing this, I always love asking questions here. I'm going to ask if anybody sees anything that's wrong with the first line of this, the first line of this slide.
The typo in you instead of
Good
your.
for you. Good for you. Wow. That's excellent. Okay. And the
It's so
reason,
easy to miss that, even with a spell check.
That is-
That's why
yes.
it's always good to have us another person or read
Good for
it
you.
backwards,
Okay.
right?
and
I do
this
that
is
all the
why
time.
This is why I do this, okay? Because we talk about editing, making sure that you have the resume looking the way you want it to look, make it look professional, proofread. And as you point out, that is not something that spell check would have caught. And the reason that I am so adamant about encouraging people to do this flawlessly is because I had the experience of going to an interview once. I've always prided myself on being a good proofreader. I find errors in other people's stuff all the time. And I walked into that interview, my resume was lying on the desk, and there was a big circle around a word that I had misspelled on the first page of the resume. And I was absolutely mortified. The guy never said anything about it, but I learned my lesson. So don't let that happen to you. That's why I talk about that a lot. Remember that your resume is a living document. You got to keep updating it, you got to keep changing it, you got to keep tailoring it to the job you want, the job you're looking for. But what it is it really is the reflection on you. It's your opportunity to spotlight yourself, to shine the light on you, to show the employer why they really, really need you in the job. So it's really worthwhile taking time and really crafting it carefully and professionally. And I know that some of the stuff is really, really intense. One thing I did want to mention is if you go on our website, the Tri-Valley Career Center website, there are a lot of various, there are different resources available. And one of the things I always like to point out, you can get this. This is called Resume Action Words. And it's a printout that you can get from that website. And what it does is it gives you wonderful words to use in your resume. Sometimes you're so tired of the old words, you're so tired of not being succinct enough. Wonderful words on here. So if you want a copy of this, go to the website, it's on there. It's called Resume Action Words. And you can print it out and it will help you craft your resume, I guarantee it. So any other questions or comments? I mean, thank you all for coming. It's been a lot of fun. Please go on our website. There's a lot lots of information that you can get there. And you feel free to make an appointment with one of the career counselors after you work on your resume, bring it in, talk to them, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be sure to send you out the PowerPoints along with email addresses and all those things for your use and reference after this meeting. And again, as Mary stated, there is a interviewing workshop coming up in a few weeks, and I'll make sure to send you the link for that registration, although you all may already be aware of it. So again, thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Have a good afternoon, everybody.